Hello, I wanted to show a picture of my favorite piece of art that I received from my great-grandmother. Her name was Kathleen. Everybody in Sequim called her Kay. And super excited. I've had this piece for several years. It's been in storage. It is a bear to clean, but it is a floating brass sculpture in the shape of a cross, and it has in it this interesting design of the bright green and the blue in the squares that float and kind of break that up, which is interesting. So my grandfather, who went by the name of Spud, his name was Robert. He was a pioneer family in Sequim. I'm gonna get up here on my big bed. Okay. He loved Art Deco, and so did I, and this hung in my grandparents' house for 50 years, at least, above their fireplace. She was a World War II bride from the Gorge and married my grandfather, and then was in Sequim. And they lived on First Street by the school. Their property's relatively famous. And my grandfather's family owned all kinds of property. Bell Hill and up different things. Nonetheless, he bought this in Port Townsend. I've never been able to find a maker's mark, but we'll get close to it so you can see it. So we have different types of brass patinas and textures, and these big rectangle ones. Cleaning it's a real bear. I just finished. You can't clean all of it. It will strip the patina with like a Brazo, but the circles I can. So I got them shiny. And then it just gets dusty. So a damp cloth, this texture is magical. One of my boys, my retired veteran, he was a professional welder, and he can tell me what all of the metals are. And I love the floating blue and green squares, really kind of interesting, and it does remind me of the peninsula. So if anybody knows who this artist is, I've never been able to figure it out. And it has a frame that it sits on where the pieces are then welded, a lot of fine welding. And so this piece means a lot to me. When my grandmother, who fought cancer twice, she went into remission and then cancer is what took her life. She asked me, "What do you want? What do you want of my home?" And the only thing I asked for was this. And it reminded me of them, and it's just exquisite. So this wall is where it goes. At different homes in my life, since I do love the chartreuse grass green as an accent wall, I did have the painters paint it in here. And I have used this as a color palette in all of my homes. It has a very landscape vibe to it. And so this wall really pops with it. So when you drive with it in the car, since I moved a lot, it does rattle. And that rattle sound when I picked it up and drove it home was like, it's like the sound of going home. And for me in my life, I have very, very little of that. And that also just that sound meant, hey, you're finally home. And that was super comforting. All those little things. So this is gonna go here, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna consider, because I'm definitely gonna film it. Let's not fall off my big bed. All right, I'm jumping down. Okay, so you can see how this vaulted ceiling goes up, and I love brass. My husband and I refinished this dresser together. Seriously, I bought it on Facebook Marketplace for 25 bucks. Here, let me show that to you, because that's gonna go in the design. Totally, my pillows are in the way because I'm washing my sheets. Okay, look at that. And I bought this brass hardware. I usually restore all the original, but I love it. And it has original locks. We bought it for 20 bucks because it was so heavy. Some little mama didn't like it, and it was painted in a black chalkboard paint. and it couldn't be moved. So anytime I have an inspiration piece, I'm always a brass person. So we have a brass lamp, that wood. This piece I just love. My husband, when he was a single dad, went to a garage sale out in the country where he was at, like in Salem, out in the country, and bought this for really cheap, and I loved that he invested in that. So I loved the deck. That was the first thing that went. And we got the brass, and this is a wedding present from my mother-in-law. Right, super pretty. I picked it out on my registry. She bought it for me because she's like that. And then I'm gonna have 2 brass lamps I ordered. This was my great-grandmother's lamp. I love it. I just don't love it in here. And so I want my eye to be able to bounce through the brass. So in a minimalist way, this is kind of balanced right now. But I think what I want to do is, I love the art collage, and it will be hard to, well, it's not gonna be hard for me in scale, but attempting to pick the unique pieces that balance it out. So I thought I'll film this first, because this heavy mirror balances out the heaviness over here, and so your eye can read that. So I think that's gonna be a fun project for me. Since I'm an artist, I can paint anything, and I'm gonna go look at some of my drawings. I have some really great figure drawings, but that's my brass sculpture, and I can put them in there. And just getting a little sense of how you want it to go before you start really does help. And we also have like some beautiful photography. So it'd be nice to balance out the modern in a way. Like, you can't just do all paintings. You can't just do all photography. So I'm gonna look for that balance and that bounce into the brass. So really, really elated. I put this, these shears, and I put this carpet in here. It was in my office, and it's gonna make a little more eclectic of a vibe, and I like that. All right, that's my brass sculpture, a little bit about it. I thank the people that stored it for me. Anytime you've moved around a lot or gone through a lot, you always feel like your life is a big pain in the butt, and we know it's not to the people that love us, but this means an extra lot to me. So there it is, that it actually made it home. And home for me will never be a building or items, but it's a place where you are welcome, and it's a manifestation of your identity and a little nest. So that's what it's gonna look like. I'm excited for the art wall.